For too long, I've been a school teacher and dealing with children who are sometimes naughty and sometimes disagreeable and sometimes hit each other. And the squabble in Manchester Airport was interesting and shocking. And this case gripped the public's imagination, and an altercation in Manchester Airport involving two brothers, their mother, and the police. And Mohammed Fahir Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad have today pleaded not guilty to assault, and it raises questions about justice, evidence, public perception, and particularly in an era where footage can spread far and wide before a trial even begins, and how that trial can proceed without being tainted by the information that seems to be conveyed in that footage beggars all description, beggars all belief. I don't know how this can proceed fairly. On the 23rd of July 2024, this incident occurred in Manchester Airport's Terminal 2 that led to both brothers being charged with assault. And the key allegations revolve around their supposed attack on multiple police officers, Zachary Marsden, Lydia Ward, and Ellie Cook, as well as a member of the public, Abdul Karim Ismail. And the footage that emerged online showed a chaotic and violent encounter, included a moment that many found shocking. I certainly found it shocking, where an officer appeared to be kicking and stamping on the head of a man on the ground. I don't know which brother that was. The sheer virality, I think is probably the best word, of this footage ignited protests outside Rochdale Police Station, with chants of "shame on you" directed at law enforcement. Yet despite this visceral response from the public, it's crucial to remember that a video clip, however compelling, lacks context, and this seems to have been an instance of excessive force by the police, but within the context, and then later there was a little more context released. Was it actually in response to a violent attack by the accused, or was it more complex? Was it an escalating confrontation in which both sides bear some responsibility? And you end up with this sort of six of one, half a dozen of the other. And the truth, as is so often the case, will likely lie somewhere between these two extremes. And it might be quite difficult to isolate it and identify it. But there is CCTV all over an airport. When the two brothers appeared at Liverpool Crown Court, their appearance was markedly different from the chaotic scene captured at the airport. Dressed in dark suits, the pair projected an image of compliance and dignity. They entered not guilty pleas to all charges, which included multiple counts of actual bodily harm and assault against emergency workers. And their trial, set to begin on June the 30th, will be a test of how much weight the legal system places on the widely circulated footage versus the broader circumstances as described in the court about the incident itself. And the prosecution will argue that the injuries sustained by the police officers justify the charges of actual bodily harm, and the defence, however, may claim that their actions were in some way provoked, or that the police response was disproportionate to the issues. The case highlights the significant role that public perception plays in modern criminal trials, and the court of public opinion is often swift and decisive, with social media clips leading to immediate and at times reactionary conclusions. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched its own investigation into the actions of the officers involved, particularly regarding the footage of the alleged excessive force and the kick in the face. And this parallel investigation could have more bearing on the trial itself, complicating the narrative further. Additionally, it's worth noting that the disparity in how similar cases are perceived is important. If this had been an altercation between civilians rather than involving the police, would there be the same level of scrutiny? Would the accused still be painted as either victim or aggressor with such stark clarity? One of the fundamental questions in this case is whether the footage provides a clear-cut narrative of guilt or innocence. Video evidence, while invaluable, doesn't always provide the full story. It captures moments, not motivations. For instance, if a suspect is seen retaliating violently, but the preceding moments involve provocation or even unlawful force against them, how should this be interpreted? This is the stuff that Alfred Hitchcock talks about in that brilliant little video where he talks about montage. You've probably seen it, where he takes an old man who looks at the camera and then smiles, and in between the old man looking and the smile, he then cuts a picture of a little baby in a pram or something, and he says, "And what do you think of the old man now? Nice old gentleman." And he says, "Now suppose we take out that picture of the baby and replace it with a girl in a bikini. What do you think of the old man now? You think dirty old man." So the context of the footage is really important. And one of the fundamental questions in this case is whether that footage, even without its editing, provides a clear-cut narrative of guilt. So the first bit of footage which was distributed was the footage of the policeman apparently kicking the lad in the face, stamping on his head. And that was deeply shocking. And then a second piece of footage was released, which showed the two boys apparently attacking the police. And video evidence, while invaluable, doesn't provide the full story. It captures moments and it needs to be contextualized. Moreover, the legal framework around assaults on emergency workers has been toughened in recent years with harsher penalties for those found guilty. And this case will likely test how far that legislation is applied, particularly if there's any ambiguity regarding whether excessive force was used by the officers first. As I say, the footage is there's almost certainly a fully documented recording of the event and the events that preceded the attack. As the trial date approaches, this case is likely to generate further public debate about video evidence. On one side, there are those who see the charges as justified, given the injuries suffered by the officers. On the other, there are concerns that the viral footage suggests a heavy-handed police response, raising wider questions about law enforcement's approach to physical confrontations. For now, Amaz and Ahmad remain on unconditional bail, and their legal team will undoubtedly argue that the case was not as clear-cut as it may seem from the cursory glance at online footage. The court will have the final say on June the 30th, but regardless of the outcome, this case will serve as another test of how justice is balanced in this digital age, and it's important. Oh, by the way, I don't remember if anybody has seen it. There's a Sean Connery film, and there's a Michael Crichton book which looks at the impact of video evidence in a trial and how video evidence can be manipulated, distorted, but I would suggest how video evidence needs to be interpreted. And I can't remember the name of the book or the film. Prime something or other. Prime Suspect? No, it wouldn't be that, would it? Rising Sun. Rising Sun. Nothing to do with Prime at all. There we are. Check it out. I think from a storytelling point of view, it's not exactly a parallel, but it raises interesting questions about whether what you see is actually the truth. And the problem is, in a digital age, in an age when we are used to seeing images, we are used to having those images edited and interpreted for us. So when those images are unedited, there isn't a montage, we are still inclined to interpret that, to have that footage interpreted for us. And the way the footage was revealed to us is already telling a story.